Yo, what is going on, everybody? Isaac Mashman here, and welcome back to another episode of your favorite podcast, Chase the Vision with Isaac Mashman, the show that is all about helping you become a more capable individual through sharing my experiences in business, life, and personal growth, and also sharing the experiences of my fantastic guests that I bring on. And today, I have a returning guest, in a sense. He's a fantastic artist based out of Bakersfield, California, a personal friend of mine, somebody who I've known for the past couple of years. I've seen his growth. And, as I'm doing the show, I want to not only, bring people on who have seen success and seen massive success of all varying different levels, but I also want to bring people on board who are on that path and who I know and have faith are going to break out very, very soon. I had an interview with Hindsight the other day. His numbers are growing. His numbers are streaming. He's going up. His brand is scaling. And so it's like, I want to bring other people on. And so I brought on my good friend, Ness Julius. And Ness, what's going on, man? How are you?
Chilling, man. I'm enjoying the response I'm getting from the project. It's a beautiful thing.
I'd love to hear that. Love to hear that. Speaking of the project, just dropped. Pretty
Yes,
Girls Cry Too.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's long awaited. I'm excited that it's finally out, honestly.
Me too. Speaking of which, before we jump into all of that, man, because we could obviously talk about that for hours. Let's go ahead and set the stage for our original interview. We did that back in like 2019. It was when the show wasn't even called Chase the Vision. It was called Hustler's Choice. I was still in Bakersfield, California. I didn't have anything together, didn't have the company together, didn't have, I was still sleeping on floors, trying to get that figured out. And it was before you started being managed by Noble, which is a crazy, crazy thought. We did that. And then after the interview, I think that was when we took that like 4 a.m. trip to his house and we just sat underneath the stars, man, and started talking. And I don't want to give too much away, but a lot has changed in the past couple of years. What's happened?
Honestly, I linked up with Noble. Together we founded, or we started the foundation. We built the foundation that is Undefined Records.
Mm-hmm.
We put all the groundwork in, and the past year and a half has just been nonstop dedication, just planning, and now we're here. So it's honestly a blessing that we made it out the process, and now we're starting to see progress. So it's
Mm-hmm.
honestly like the best thing ever. Super duper vibes. Like, so glad that I ended up actually linking up with Noble, because our relationship is pretty good. And yeah, man, I'm just excited to finally be in this position and have my project out. Like, It's just like such a weight lifted off my shoulders, because we see all the months of preparation, and now like see the outcome. So it's honestly it's really, really humbling.
Right. And this is your first full-length project since Faithfulness that dropped in 2019, right? Man, okay, so why did it take so damn long for it to come out? Now I'm putting you on blast, not putting you on blast, whatever you want to call it. But when people take a couple of years to drop a project, the response is normally like, man, this project better be freaking worth the wait. Now, do you think that Pretty Girls Cry Too is worth the wait?
For sure. I think I delivered my best body of work to date. And it's funny because in the beginning, I remember we had conversations where I had like 40 something songs, but
yeah.
I think this is the first time ever where I've gone into a project with so many favorites. And a lot of these songs I had a moment with. So I can't really say that I have a favorite song, because they were all my favorite at one point. And so I just treated every single song like it was a single. And with that being said, like making sure it had elements to it that you could come back to. Yeah, honestly, I think it was worth the wait. And we have a lot of sleepers that people are gravitating towards. So it's really dope.
Which is a good sign, though. That's a good sign at the end of the day, because I know last year, it was before I flew out to Arkansas, and I was still in Bakersfield. And then I linked up with you and Noble to go down to LA because I had my bags, and it was like, sayonara Bakersfield. Like, I'm never going back. Like, and no hate towards Bako and the 661, man, but it was a chapter in my life. And on the way down to LA, and we were just playing, you were playing a lot of the songs, and that was August of 2019, and you're like, man, the project's coming out in January, and I'm like, all right, we'll see. We'll see if this comes out. And you played some of the songs there, and some of the songs that you played then, I believe, actually made it to the project. Some of them aren't. There's one song that I'm furious that it's not out, that I'm gonna have you send me in a WAV file so I can listen to it on my own time. But I think that all the songs that you chose really match the vibe of the project and what you were trying to put out. Now, this definitely, I have to agree, is the best project so far. And why do you think that is? Why do you think that is?
Honestly, the short answer is just growth. It's really just me growing as an artist, me maturing as an artist, me experiencing different life situations, and now I'm able to put that into the music. That's why I think that this project is my best, and it's not just saying. I'm not saying that because it's new. I'm saying that because a lot has happened in between, my projects, and I think this is the perfect mold of all of my thoughts, all of my feelings into just one complete body of work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, I know that we jumped straight into the interview, and guys, I'm not going to apologize for doing it because, when you have that energy, you just flow with it, you run with it. There's a reason why our first interview was an hour and 40 minutes long, and we recorded literally in the same living room together. We had to take a break halfway through because the energy was flowing. We're like, we need to take a break and take a drink and relax for a minute. But why don't you make a quick introduction to yourself? Tell the listeners and tell the people, a little bit about you and why they want to, or why they should check out your music versus, all these other artists and underground people and people fighting for their attention pretty much.
Yeah, for sure. Well, if you don't know me by now, which obviously some of you don't, my name is Ness Julius. I'm an artist out of Bakersfield, California. I grew up in Bakersfield, California. I was born in Houston, so all that chopped and slopped and screwed, all of that I grew up on. My family originates from the Virgin Islands, so I get that love for dancehall from my family. I would say one of the things that separates me from other artists is that even though I cater to a female audience, I think my music is very universal and it speaks on different levels beyond the surface. And I think that going into my music and my discography, you'll find that you can just escape. And I don't think many new artists have that ability to just, you put them on and you can just close your eyes and just escape and imagine, the scenery. So I think that really separates me because I pride myself in being that artist that can speak to multiple different people. So other than women.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that this project too has really given you an opportunity to show more of the lyrical side of you, because a lot of your previous, songs and singles were more singing. They had, obviously lyrics in it that were high quality and that were good. But now this project, you're going up a little bit faster. And I know that you have all of these different, songs that are in the vault. I know if you were to go back and listen to the first interview, we sat down and talked about, how you have 400 plus songs just sitting in a drive folder that you were just recording nonstop every single day. And that obviously pays off, but you really haven't given the people a taste of that whole, let me rap my ass off and drop 8 bars and, put out a rap song versus put out an artistic song. And this project is it's still not like that super Chicago drill. Now I know that you've rapped over drill beats and stuff in the past that nobody's heard, but a select few. Why is that?
Why is what?
Why is it that you haven't put out songs that would normally be the ones that get the most airplay in this, particular scene of music, right? You think about the state of music and the, the littles popping out, the little pumps, the little, I was going to name a couple other littles, but they're actually the good ones versus all these crappy ones. But why haven't you just dropped all those songs that you have?
It's all about strategy. Because I can keep dropping music and then just wait to get lucky, but I don't think that that's the best method. I think definitely it's more about strategy for me. It's kind of like you don't want to show people too much because I also got to think in the back of my mind, not everybody has already heard of me. And I want to make sure that I'm very consistent. So I don't want a POV to sound so different from the next single. I want everything to kind of sound similar. So when I do switch it up, I try to make sure that it's very slight so that the adjustment doesn't throw people off or it doesn't deter a listener, you
Mhm.
know, from the previous work. So that's one of the reasons why I don't necessarily chase a hit anymore. I kind of just want to just keep going with the strategy so that way we gain more of a following little by little. That's kind of important for any upcoming artist, you know, just stay consistent. Strategy will always beat chasing a hit, no matter how much time, how much little time you think you have. Strategy is very important because you can have that hit today and tomorrow not have anything to follow up. So that's why like I just keep a strategy in mind.
That's what I really wanted you to touch on too, because looking at the way that you've branded yourself even prior to working with Noble, your Spotify profile, your discography since you made that transition a long time ago from Ness to Ness Julius was methodical. Like it was something that you took time to really plan out. And if you were to go to your profile, you see a similar theme, you see a similar sound. But what I've also noticed is if we were to compare your profile and your discography to that of an artist who's been out for, let's say, a decade or 5 years and has millions of streams, your discography will match theirs, not only in a sense of quality, but in a sense of you can tell that this is his lane and this is what he thrives in and this is what people know him for. And it gives you that like A-list impression before you've hit A-list. And I think that that's something that really stood out when I first came across your music, because I'm like, the music you make isn't stuff that I would normally sit down and listen to every single day. Like it's not on replay normally in my playlist, but I came to really, really appreciate the planning and the artistry that went into the cover arts. And speaking of cover arts, man, I think a good thing to talk about would be who designs them.
I design all my artwork.
Okay, now why is that?
You know, I've always designed artwork. I started designing artwork back in high school when I first started making music. And I just fell in love with it, honestly, because it goes hand in hand with the music. A lot of times I would, you know, write songs and just already have the artwork in my head. So I just figured, let me get good at this because if I can get good at this, I don't need to go anywhere else for this. You know, and if I could do it at a high enough level, I can potentially make income off of that. And so over the years, I started making income off of clients, and then um, I just kept working at it, got good at it, and you know, got enough confidence to just make all my own cover art. And
Right.
I do that now, and it's honestly really fun because it goes hand in hand with the music for me.
That creative side of you really kicks in. And I have to say that the cover art for the latest project is honestly my favorite because it gives me like a Grammy nominated singer impression. And I'm not saying any of this out of like a place of like brown nose or trying to boost your ego and to the listening audience. Like I want you to, as you're listening to this, go pull up his Spotify profile, pull up his discography, pull up his Instagram, and you'll see what I'm talking about, because I'm not just bringing anybody onto the show. I'm not just trying to interview every artist and his other like and his brother like on the podcast. Like I value the brand. That's why I don't run ads, but I really want you guys to take the time to appreciate his work ethic, because where he was a couple years ago versus where he is today and where he's going, once you talk to them outside of the interview, and this is why I'm asking you some of these questions that you're like, you normally wouldn't be asked. They're talking only about the project, but I want to go deeper than that to give people a good sense of who Ness Julius is behind the scenes. That's what makes Russ stand out. That's what makes, Lil Wayne stands out. People know who they are, like, and that authenticity really shines through. And so, off the record, I was talking to somebody and they're saying that there's a story behind the song Take It There. Now, what's the story?
So the story behind Take It There. Um, let's take it all the way back to last January.
We're taking it there. All right.
Last January, when I first linked up with my manager, I drove over to the studio, and this was actually before he started managing me. I I came to the studio with my USB card, SD card, and it had literally, I want to say about 150 unreleased songs on it. I narrowed it down to the best 50, and I just played my manager like 50 tracks. And of the 50 tracks, one of the ones that stood out to him was Take It There. Um, And it's funny because at the time, it didn't sound like what it sounds like now. It had no layers on it. It was just one vocal layer. It was just me singing Take It There. There was no verse. He just heard the hook and he was like, that's the one. He's like, that song right there is the one. I mean, I had 49 other songs that I thought were great. And I was like, of that one, you pick that. Like of all of the songs that I just played, you picked that.
Mm-hmm.
And I went home that night. And on the way home, I played that song nonstop on the drive home. And I'm just like, man, if this song is what he thinks is the one, then that must mean that I need to match that energy and really finish the whole song because it was just a hook. And
Right.
so I said, you know what? Fuck it. If this is the one, then I'm gonna make this one, the one. I'm gonna hone in on it, and I'm gonna write a crazy verse, and we're gonna get this shit going. And so I took that song to Nate Studios, A Nate, and I recorded it that night with all the layers. That's when I knew I fell in love
Mm-hmm.
with it. And we were still molding the project around March, and that's when we decided that we wanted a female artist on that song, and we reached out to a couple. I'm not gonna lie, we had our goal set a little too high because there was a few big time artists that we wanted on that song that weren't able to pull. But we shot for Melissa, and immediately when I sent it over, she fell in love with the song, and it took some time, and we finally got the verse back. Once we got the verse back, we knew it was set, and
Mm-hmm.
we just kind of started planning the rollout, and that's pretty much the story of Take It There.
Because honestly, that song is one of my favorites off of the project. And I have a very keen ear for, beats or for this like almost, it's like it gives you an energy, and that energy for me, like I'm very big on obviously visualization and understanding what you're working for, where you're going in life, the feeling that you get from sitting in a Rolls Royce, in a dealership and being like, man, I'm gonna drive this off the lot in the future, that sort of vibe. And with that song, I get an energy very similar to that with just like the dun dun dun, like just the plays with the melodies and everything, man. I freaking love it. And what was it like working with Melissa Sandoval? Because I've never heard of her until I saw that she was on the project, and I checked her out a little bit. But why her versus maybe some other artists that were not so much out of your league that you could have also got on the song?
One of the reasons why I shot for her is because I've been a fan of hers for a while. I've been watching her social media. I found out about her because of Vine, and I don't know if some people know her from Vine. I guess back in the day, she would make these vines, and it would just be her singing, and she always had a really nice voice. And so going into the project, I know I wanted to work with a female artist to really capture my female fan base.
Right.
And it's kind of important that I chose female artists on this project because the album is called Pretty Girls Cry Too. So I wanted a lot of female presence on it. And I just shot for her because I just thought that she fit the song really well. I thought that her branding could go really dope with mine. And so it was a lot of elements that played into it, a lot of factors, but ultimately she just ended up being the perfect choice for it.
Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about the mindset behind staying consistent. Obviously, since high school, when you first got started with all of this, and just going home and recording with probably some old shitty $50 mic, and then just kind of scaling it up. Why have you stayed consistent? How have you stayed consistent?
Man, it's been challenging more and more over the years, but staying consistent, if anything, it's gotten harder, but mentally, because I really do this like day in and day out. This is all I think about. I eat, sleep, and breathe music, but it's just kind of hard to stay consistent now that life is starting to get in the way. And now that I'm living on my own, have my own place, got my own like paying for my car, just bills, adulting,
Right.
one-on-one. It's making it harder. But what's really got me to stay consistent is just knowing where I can be versus where I am.
Play that back really quick. Play that back.
So knowing where I can be versus where I am, it's in my mind, I have a goal and I know that if I stay consistent, I can reach that goal because goals are attainable. The problem is we have to be willing to put in the work and sacrifice to achieve those goals. And that's just something that I'm willing to do at all costs. If I have to put in the work, if I have to make the sacrifice of just not getting sleep one night, staying up for 12 hours, just recording, and so be it. I mean, pain is just temporary. You can think through pain and that little bit of pain, those little bumps in the road, you just get over it and you just continue the journey. And that's what's really been keeping me focused, and that's what's made me stay consistent for so long is I know that I can be in a way higher place than where I am now. So why stop?
You made that decision to go all in ultimately, man, because that was the same thing, going back to the time that we drove to Noble's studio at 4 o'clock in the morning before his current studio setup, even for Undefined, was built, and then that was also the same night. And we touched on that in the interview with Noble about that was the night End of the Night was recorded. And you two are just going back and forth. And I'm just sitting there, just chilling in the back seat, listening to you guys work this creative genius. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I could tell that y'all both had this decision in your head of like, this is where we're at. This is where we're supposed to be. And I think that that's, a fantastic energy to be in. And that's something that I wish for everybody to also come to have and come to, respect. Now, how have you developed that mentality? Like, is personal development big to you? Do you read? Do you listen to podcasts? Like that mentality just isn't developed overnight.
Honestly, I watch a lot of interviews. That's kind of where I got my confidence from, was interviews and seeing my friends navigate through the industry, seeing how they move. Um, just becoming more business savvy, learning different sides of the music industry,
Mm-hmm.
just changing my approach overall. Um, and it's kind of changed the way that I even view music in a sense. Because before I would just think of recording a song, that's it, and putting it out the next day. Now it's like, okay, I have like 3 songs. Of these 3, I think this one could be really big if we promote it the right way. And it's putting together a budget. It's just all these different things. And
Business side of things.
that just came over time. And reading is one of the things that I do. I try to read I read poetry. I read some top scholar novels every now and then.
Interesting. Who's your favorite poet?
Well, see, I had a haiku book, and
Mm,
I would read that. Um, but one of my favorite poets is Maya Angelou.
no idea who that is.
Well, she has some pretty dope poetry, and Dr. Seuss.
Dr. Seuss. Okay. Yeah. 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 What most people don't understand is behind their favorite entertainers is a business. And the business isn't the glorified side. The business is the nitty gritty, shitty side. Like that's literally the business. Now, it can be great. You can really make a lot of money. You can have a lot of success. You can have a lot of fun. Like some of my best moments in business were when I was, managing Diggy and not knowing what was going on. I'm just figuring it out along the way. And that's the joy of life. And you can adopt that in every aspect of your individual business and such. Now, with your project, there were some songs on it that I didn't expect to make the cut. And what I mean by that is you had some singles that came out from like 2019 that were relatively old, and y'all did a play to reintroduce those songs on the project. What was behind that decision?
I believe you're talking about Champagne Summer.
Champagne Summer, yeah, man. Well, obviously that's the one with Brandon Johnson and Joe Maynard. So it's like you got some larger names, and Joe's been on the rise for the past 12 months. He's been hitting new levels every month, it seems like. But what was that decision?
Ultimately, that song was, it was originally gonna be on the project. It's just because a lot of people don't realize that the project was supposed to come out last year, but I um I just started. I kept making music. Like I just can't stop making music, and so I started piling up songs, and we ended up cutting a lot. But that was one of the ones that we said from the jump was gonna stay on it because the song kind of got too big to not put on a project. If that makes sense,
That does.
it was too big to avoid. Like it got to the point where the song was literally, people don't know this, but what that song did was with no promo. So the song reached like, I want to say like 80,000 plays in a matter of 4 months with no promo. And so once it started climbing, I was like, no, this song is moving too rapid for me not to put this on a project.
And that's the one that also has a music video out, right? That I remember, hearing that you guys just dropped it in a whim. I'm just like, yo, we're dropping the music video. And yeah, that's a funny story. I'm gonna put you on blast there. But yo, you guys, speaking of music videos, do you have some upcoming music videos coming out? Am I hearing correct information or just a bunch of whispers in the wind?
We got something in the works.
Something in the works. Okay. Gotta give me more than that. What's something in the works, baby, huh?
We got something in the works.
Yikes. Yikes. That's painful. That's painful. Okay. Well, what's the meaning behind Foolish? Because that's another one of the songs that really stood out.
So Foolish is about being in a relationship, being young and dumb, and just recognizing each other's pain and growing. I think that was really important to touch on. And you can argue that it's probably has a very toxic underlying theme, but
So does the entire project, I think.
the song "Foolish" was just a brutally honest confession, and I just wanted to make sure that I was being completely honest, and it was bare bones. I kind of made it more about me, but in a sense, I made it from the guy's perspective, and I'm gonna touch on that. And I kind of said one of my favorite lines in that song is we're both products of what we've been through, scar tissue from the emotional trauma. And that line right there, it hit me when I wrote it because it's just so true. Because in a relationship, you don't understand how similar some individuals are. I mean, it's never like, it's not ethical to compare trauma, but relatively speaking, you get in these situations where each of you guys have endured some really fucked up shit. And when you get to each other, it starts the healing process, and it allows you to discover new parts of that person, and it helps two people grow and mature together. That's the meaning behind Foolish.
You're touching on some really, really phenomenal points right there. And I think that that's also a way for you to, move past together. I think that that's like the best kind of growth. Multiple people moving in conjunction can get, you much farther ahead than just moving solo. And that's something I've had to learn myself. And that's really cool to see. So what was the decision behind you, working with Noble and then coming to Undefined Records and, ultimately like building and setting down that foundation, man, being the first artist and right now the artist on the roster for him? What was behind that decision? Because you were somebody who was like, you could become successful solo. Like you had that talent, you had that artistry. What influenced that decision?
Honestly, I really just needed guidance. It's very important that, even where I was at, for an artist to really humble themselves and sit back and realize, like, I may be doing these things, but I still need help. And I wasn't ashamed to admit that I needed help. I needed help just learning how to navigate through the industry. And I think that's one of the things that Noble really helps me with. And it's allowing me to just understand new avenues of this, and that there really is levels to the game. And I'm learning all of that because of Noble. I think without him, this process would have been much slower. It's allowed me to stay focused on the music, but also focus on other things too without getting sidetracked. And that was really important for me. So
Right,
that
right.
alone impacted my decision to join Undefined.
And I think the other important thing is a lot of times we see maybe the wrong public figures who are managers, and that can really influence somebody's mind and perception of what a manager is in the music industry, because we see a couple of the wrong, articles, some of the wrong press releases. I mean, Scooter Braun's one of the greatest managers of all time, discovered Justin Bieber, managed Ariana Grande. Kanye West forced him to be his manager, but just because Scooter Braun had, this might get some flack, but a couple press releases that were against Taylor Swift, they're like, he's the worst human being possible. But what they don't see is what the manager does on the back end, right? And part of the, before this interview, man, like Noble gave me a ring. He's like, hey, just want to make sure everything's all right. Like he's checking in. And that's the role of a manager, to progress your life forward. And it's not so much in a sense of a manager, or not in a sense of a mentor, rather, excuse me, but rather as somebody who's there in your corner to see you win. Now, you growing as an artist, you got some ambitious goals over the next couple of years, I know. And I have no doubt that you're going to achieve them. But speaking of an artist who you want to work with, who would be that number one pick for you?
Right now?
Right now. Like if somebody gave you a ring and was like, yo, you're on a song, you just got to let me know who. Who would you go with?
I'd probably have to say Russ or Kehlani.
Really?
Yeah.
What's behind that decision?
I just feel like we'd make really dope music.
Hmm.
And given my track record, I make pretty dope songs with female artists, and I think Kehlani is no exception. I think it would be really fire to really link up with her and make something.
I think if you were to sit in the studio with Russ, though, you'd probably be annoying him with questions. You're normally a quiet dude, but when you're in the right situation, the right circumstances, you open up and start talking nonstop. So that's cool, man. That's cool. So what can people expect to see for you moving forward? With this project, like what's next?
More music, more visuals, more content. Who knows? Maybe even another project.
Maybe even another project, making this announcement right after a project drops.
Yeah, like I said, more content. Definitely, I don't ever stop making music, which is why I can't promise you that another project may or may not come out. I'm for sure working on the deluxe to Pretty Girls Cry 2. There's definitely deluxe. I plan on making a splash this summer with some of those records on the deluxe. I can't really speak too much on who's on the deluxe, but I will let you guys know that I believe that I have a strong contender for the song of the summer on the deluxe.
Interesting. Okay. Knowing some of the people that you've been surrounding yourself with lately, I could definitely see some larger names coming on board. How has it been like surrounding yourself with the right people?
It's been great, honestly. I'm pretty blessed to have friends that are even in that situation. But it's been pretty dope. And not even just to be around those people, but to be respected and welcomed around those people. To see me be well received amongst some of these LA artists is pretty dope to see. And the fact that they're even allowing me to kind of trickle my way into the scene, because no one handed me this. I'm kind of just getting here by fate and by just content, just having really dope content and having a budding fan base that's kind of guiding me into that. So it's pretty dope, man, honestly. And
Anybody got a tattoo of yourself yet? Got Ness Julius tattooed on the arm?
Yeah, but I'm thinking it's coming soon based off the response for this project.
How has the response been?
It's awesome. It's awesome. A lot of songs that I didn't expect to do well is doing really well. One of those being Love Letters. Love
Mm-hmm.
Letters, I played for you that you really fell in love with. And I remember you told me, you said that this is one of the songs that you've played me so far that has a lot of playback value. And that statement really, really was little did I know was going to be the theme of the project, because that song is taken off. A lot of people are connecting with that.
Sheesh. I don't even remember saying that, man, because that was so much has happened in the past 8 months, but that just goes to say, like, you don't know who's listening and you don't know who is actually really paying attention to what you could say that could sit and resonate with somebody. And I think that that's an important thing behind music and the messages that you talk about. Now, obviously you have, some reoccurring themes with your music. Why is that important to you to talk about subjects that are maybe, something that you've already touched on in the past?
Just got to say things in a different way because I feel like you can always spin a story a different way. There's always, like the cliche saying is, there's two sides to every story. I think more than two. I think there's maybe three, four, five, maybe even six. There's a lot of different ways you can tell a story. It's just like interviews. Artists go on interviews all the time and they say the same thing just in different ways. I'm not trying to give you the same song over and over again, but definitely give you a song that gives you that similar feeling of nostalgia when you put it on. So it's just like I said, it's another form of just staying consistent with my music.
Right. Now, since your first release as an album, All American Boys Club, that came out in, I think, like 2018 or 2000, was it 2018?
2000, yeah, 2000.
Yeah, you had to think about that one for a second. Yeah. What is the main difference between that project and the newest release?
Well, All American Boys Club was me finding myself. That's why if you listen to the project, the musical theme is all over the place. Like it starts off in country, then it goes to vaporwave, then it goes to R&B. It was just me finding myself, and a lot of people really, really still enjoy that project to this day. I play some cuts on there that I come back to, but that was just me finding myself. On Faithfulness, I think I was starting to find my lane, and on Pretty Girls Cry Too. So now that I found my lane, now I want to show you that I can dominate in this lane. That's been the difference. The difference was it went from me finding my sound to finding myself, and now staying true to myself and owning it.
Using some pretty strong language there. Dominate in this lane. Dominate.
Exactly. That's what I'm. That's
Man.
That's what I'm here for. I'm no longer playing the game to just be a bystander. Now I'm playing the game to win, and I'm playing the game to get people to come back to my music.
Well, let's go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
One of the things that I said on the project, even have a song called it, is her favorite artist, and that's been my motto to myself. Is now I understand that I'm catering to a female audience, so I become her favorite artist. Every girl that plays my music now, I want them to come back to at least 2 or 3 songs in my discography, whether that be on this project or in the future. It's just, that's my goal, is to become her favorite artist.
Which I imagine you already have a lot of people who are. Now, I'm gonna completely switch up the topic of conversation and go away from music 100%. Now, you're from Bakersfield, California, and Bakersfield is by no means the worst place that you could ever live. But there are some things, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about this for a second though, because there aren't too many artists that have really come out of Bakersfield, or notable people aside from a couple quarterbacks and Korn, the rock bands, and now Joe Maynard, who's blowing up, like we've mentioned earlier. What was it like growing up in Bakersfield? Like, was there something that you noticed, like as a kid, maybe the energy around, the town, the city, because it's mainly, you go around, man, it's not like you're seeing sunshine and rainbows and a bunch of grass. Like, you're seeing oil rigs, you're seeing a lot of dirt, you're seeing a lot of agriculture. Like, what about the city has maybe influenced your music or influenced you as an individual, if anything?
The fact that the city is like this rabbit hole that you can't escape, that kind of gave me motivation to go harder. Even that no one made it out before made me go harder. Like, seeing that there wasn't a way out for the type of music that I wanted to make definitely drove me to be more focused and take it more serious, because I knew that I really had a chance here to be one of the select few to really make it out. But growing up in particular, I didn't really start making music until I got into high school. So up until that point, I was just playing basketball, kind of chasing a dream that I thought I was going to end up being in the NBA. But that was very short-lived once I realized what my true passion was, and that was music. And like I said, seeing that not too many people out of the city ever made it was more motivation to be the first.
Setting the example for what's to come. And, over the past couple of years since I originally touched down, I've seen more and more artists who I talked to and met by chance starting to put out music and starting to work with Drew Shotya and get music videos made and all this other stuff. And it's like, it's cool to see. And I mentioned, whenever you're in a certain place, if you really get into the culture and you really get into who's there on the scene, there are people who are going to start coming up in conversation more and more and more and more. And that's why I'm mentioning some of the people who you might have heard, a couple of interviews ago with Noble, or even our first interview. But those are the people who have stayed consistent, made the decision to become successful. And I think that that's really interesting to watch. It's inspiring to watch too. And it gives you an example of like, you don't have to only blow up in your city, you can blow up in other places too. Man, this has been a great interview. Like, we've touched on a lot of really, really cool things. And so, if you could leave one word of advice, while we wrap this up, what would that word of advice be?
Don't let the lack of support from wherever you're from deter you from your goal. That's really important because you're going to come across, when you're doing something you love, there's always going to be naysayers. There's always going to be, people that downplay whatever you're doing, but don't let that lack of support or even that criticism steer you from your path. Just stay consistent, stay focused, because at the end of the day, you will always have an audience that, may not be in your hometown, may not even be in a 50-mile radius from you, but there's somebody out there that needs your work, that needs your content. So always think of that person. And just don't ever let the negativity drown out your thoughts. Just stay consistent, stay creative, stay focused, stay driven, because at the end of the day, you got the keys to your own success.
Man, I said something to close it out, not something to open up another topic of conversation, man. That was good. That was good. And I value that. Let's circle back to that though. Have there been some people who maybe criticize you back in high school who have like circled back and been like, yo, Ness, I know I made fun of you back then, like maybe your beats were a little bit whack, your lyrics were a little bit whack, but yo, I respect what you have going on. Have there been people like that?
For sure, but they don't apologize. They kind of just jumped on the hype train a little bit.
Okay. Kind of just laugh it off. See him liking up some of the posts here and there.
Not even that. It's just they just start sharing it because their friends are sharing it, or a group that they fuck with are playing my music, so they just join in. I mean, and I don't knock it. I don't have any hate in my heart. I don't hold grudges. But it is shocking, and it's I've just learned to embrace it. Honestly, I can't hate it. Can't knock it. They're obviously recognizing the grind, and they're respecting it. So it's honestly pretty dope to see.
That's cool. That's cool. So where can people follow you, support you, stream your projects? This is a chance for you to plug yourself, brother.
Everywhere. Pretty Girls Cry 2 is out now on Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, Amazon, Deezer, on all the platforms you can find it. Yeah, even Deezer.
KK Box, Audio Mac, Mixcloud.
Also, you can find my entire discography on all platforms as well. If you really want to find some deep cuts, I suggest you start with SoundCloud. But everything's everywhere now. So that's the beauty of the 21st century.
I love the internet. Gotta love it. And then on all socials, it's at Ness Julius. Ness, man, it has been a pleasure having you back for part 2. And I know, like, I wanted to touch on so many different things, but it's like we could talk about the same things we talked about a couple of years ago, or we could talk about something that's setting down this foundation and the stage for the 3rd interview when you next drop your project. And so excited to have you back, brother. Excited to get your message out there, get your music out there. And guys, you heard it from him. Go stream Pretty Girls Cry 2 everywhere. Go follow him, go show some love and support, and be on a lookout for another podcast episode coming every single Monday, and an interview with an awesome person every single Friday. Much love.